Hey guys, it's 101 Smith, and it is 2020. This is the first review of the year, and what I have to bring to you guys is the real grade Gundam Astray Red Frame, famously from the Gundam SEED Astray manga series. This is pretty surreal because this will be the first time that I own a Gundam in 3 of the 4 scales that are readily available to a Gundam or a Gunpla modeler. I have the master grade, I have the perfect grade, and now I have the real grade. It's just kind of almost mind-blowing if you think about it. 3 different versions of the same, essentially, mobile suit. 3 different interpretations. It's nuts. With the real grade, I actually remember it being hyped up about 5 years ago. When the first announcement came out, I actually did like the video, and for some strange reason it led to me getting the perfect grade. As you guys know, I had a very high aversion to the real grade line for a couple years because it was just very difficult to actually put together all of those small pieces into a little frame, and I was very inexperienced the first and at the time only time I did a real grade. It was the real grade Gundam SEED. I was lost, frustrated. It just really turned me off for the longest time until now, where I just figured, look, I've been at this for almost 6 years. Stop being such a pansy and just do it. So that's here we are. We are at the review of the red frame. I'm pretty stoked for it, and let's see how it comes out. We got it all built up, and here we are, the real grade red frame. And I gotta say, the aesthetics on this thing are nice. You get 2 different tones of white, 2 subtle tones of red. You get a dark gray, and it just really works. I will say though, this does feel more like a scaled down master grade more than a very revolutionary piece of art that is the real grade. Don't get me wrong, it looks great, but just, it reminds me of a mini master grade in a lot of aspects. The other thing, the gold. Come on, Bandai, I shouldn't have had to use my golden Gundam marker in order to get some of the gold right. They give you the pukey gold that you would get on the Strike Freedom. And for a lot of people, that could be very frustrating because they have the technology, they have the aesthetic, they even give you a mechy blade, they can give you some mechy gold trim parts for the katana. Otherwise, this is a very nicely crafted Gunpla. All the different colors, the different shades of red and the green really pop, and it's just fully presentable as is. And don't even get me started if you were to add the decals. But now that we look at the looks, why don't we go check out some of the articulation. As we always do, let's start with the head. The head has a double jointed joint on the neck and can go 360 degrees. It can be a little tedious because you need to be careful of not only the sides of the head, but the guard on top of the body. The shoulder is on its own joint and it can hinge up with the arm, and the arm and the shoulder can both go 360 degrees, but the shoulder may not always cooperate with you due to how it's linked up. You're going to get a swivel on top of the bicep, and not only that, you're going to be getting double jointed elbows with the hands attached on with just a ball joint. In terms of the waist, you're going to get a lot of side to side, but not a traditional up and down. You're going to get that by using the waist to push the waist and the upper body forward, which is pretty unconventional, but it works. As well with the legs, the front skirts are kind of chained in together from the back to the front, which allows you to spread out pretty far wide. Yeah. And then with the double jointed knees, you're going to see a lot of shifting armor, which looks pretty badass on its own. And then you're going to get a double jointed joint on the ankles, which can pivot both side to side. Just like with any Gunpla out there in the world, this is going to come with a few accessories. Only a few weapons, but trust me, they're going to be well worth the added attention to detail. First off, you're going to get the red frames, beam rifle, and shield. And yes, this is pretty much a carbon copy of the Strike Gundam, and it makes sense with the lore of Gundam SEED. In Gundam SEED, the Astray frames were basically Orb's attempt of making Gundams without the help of the Orb Federation. So it makes sense that it probably took a lot of cues from the GAT project. With the shield and the beam rifle, they look pretty good, especially since the beam rifle has a clear green piece inside of it. You get a lot of basic posing with it, and some more advanced posing as well. Though, of course, for a lot of people, that's not why you can get a red frame, but it's noticeable and thankful that Bandai included that. On top of that, on the loadout, you're also going to get 2 beam saber effect parts. You also get 4 hilts, 2 with tags on the front of the back, and just 2 plain ones. I was just using the ones with the tabs. It can get kind of frustrating, but once you get the hang of it, you can get some pretty cool posing, and it works pretty well. But again, just like the shield and the rifle, a bit of the afterthought. Finally, the reason why we are all here. The Gundam Astray, the Red Frame's katana. And it looks pretty good, especially after you get a gold Gundam marker or you just decide to paint all of that gold trim. You can get astonishing poses with it. I pretty much spent half of this review filming just looking up katana poses and just going to town with the red frame. You can get some of the most dynamic poses that I've ever seen on a model kit. It's why I've always been a fan of the Astray Red Frame. That in Exia, it was always designed to be as humanistic and realistic as possible in terms of body, and it really pays off with this design. The real grade really helps to accentuate all the positive aesthetics with it, and the Gundam Astray is obviously my favorite part of this kit. Finally, we get to my favorite part of this review. We get to do a full-blown comparison with the red frame in 3 different grades, which is something I've never done before, with the real grade, the master grade Gundam Astray Kai that I've modified into the regular Astray, and the perfect grade Astray. As I've stated before, the real grade really takes a lot of notes from the master grade. In terms of aesthetic and a lot of its proportions, it's a mini master grade. Even the build is very familiar with the master grade. It's straight off pretty far from the perfect grade. Still, in terms of my overall direction, I prefer the master grade in terms of size and proportions. The real grade comes at a close second, and while the perfect grade comes at a third, the build of the perfect grade could not be understated. It is a fantastic build. It was one of my favorite perfect grades to put together, and it's just really cool to see all 3 of them lined up. Do not sleep on the perfect grade, but the real grade definitely earns its stripes in terms of being a great model kit, and it's just amazing to have all 3 lined up at once. It looks so cool! We've reached the end of the review, my friends, and I gotta say, Red Frame's kind of bringing me back some hope for the real grade line. When it comes to the Strike Gundam, it was a fun build, but as the review filming process went on, I began to despise that kit more and more. As it went on, it got flimsy, it got floppy, parts weren't holding together, the V-fin, the side skirts, the back skirts were falling apart, the L striker prac just was not working with me, and by the end, I went from enthusiasm to pure, unadulterated hatred for the real grade Strike, and I was almost ready to give up on the real grade. Astray has really brought back some faith. Is it a perfect kit? No. The green foil stickers for the backpack really don't work. By the end of this review, they were practically gone. The mechanic that puts the hilts of the beam saber on the backpack of the Astray fell out. I tried to put it back in multiple times, but again, by the end of the review, they were lost in the hands of time. And then when it comes to the configuration of putting the hilt of the Gundam Astray on the side, it kept making the side piece fall out. So I highly suggest that you glue those down, which I did as soon as this review was over. So, is the real grade Gundam Astray Red Frame a perfect real grade kit? No, I think we've seen a lot better. Again, I think the master grade is a lot better in terms of aesthetic and also functionality, but the real grade definitely owns itself in terms of the real grade line, and I might want to theorize that this was probably when real grades were finally starting to get good. In terms of real grade, we're 1 for 1. One shitty one, one good one. Maybe the tiebreaker will get me to review more real great kids, but that is for another time. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I am 101R Smith. Subscribe, check me out on Instagram, or if you want to, go check out my Patreon. Have a good day, and I love you. Peace.